A big change for Apple computers. The Cupertino-based tech company unveiled its new MacBook yesterday, powered by a new chip called the M1. We spoke to CNET senior reporter Shara Tibken to learn more.
This was a really focused event for Apple. Instead of kind of going all over the place with a bunch of products, it really focused on its Mac computer lineup. So the biggest news, yeah. So the biggest news is that Apple is using its own chips in some of its new computers. Apple has been pursuing a strategy for probably the last decade where it tries to make its own processors for its devices. We saw it do this with iPads, with iPhones, and now with the Macs with the M1 processor. The big benefit that you're going to see from this is battery life. So Apple is kind of talking about 20 hours of battery life basically with these devices when you're web browsing, just slightly less than that. But really huge benefits in terms of battery life. It also talks about big improvements when it comes to the power as well. We'll have to see once these are actually tested and people have these in their hands if it lives up to the claims Apple makes. But for now, it's really touting these sort of big improvements over what we've seen with previous Macs and what we also see with Windows PCs. With these new Macs, Apple actually did not really change very much besides what's inside. So the MacBook Air and the new MacBook Pro are basically going to look exactly the same as the Intel versions. If you've bought this in the past, it's going to be the same for the most part. The new MacBook Air does not have a fan. So if you think about it, if you're running a lot of tasks or if you even just have a lot of browsers open, your fan will run because your machine overheats. Apple is saying that's not going to happen with the Air. It doesn't have a fan in it. So really the biggest changes that we saw were inside. The Mac Mini also got a $100 price drop. People were kind of hoping for that with Apple's new processors, that because it controls every aspect, that they'll be cheaper and the computers will be cheaper. We really didn't see that with the Air and the Pro, but the Mini does cost a little less for people. It's going to take a little time to find out how all of our regular programs are going to work with these. Apple is doing a lot of work to make sure that the normal programs that you use all the time on your devices will still work like they used to. This requires it to work with companies like Adobe or Microsoft. We can expect right out of the gate that all Apple programs are going to work great. Those will be fine. One thing Apple had touted earlier this year was that you'd be able to also run iPhone and iPad apps on your Mac. We'll have to see what that actually looks like and how that actually works. But right now, software is a little bit of a question mark in terms of other things that are going to be supported aside from Apple's programs. The new MacBook Air is going to start at $1,000. So that was the price that it was before. The Pro price is also going to be the same. The Mini is getting a $100 price drop. And then if you are an educator or a student, you get $100 off those prices, basically. So Apple's still doing a lot for schools to make sure that people are getting the machines they need for learning at home. There was some expectation that Apple maybe could have reduced the prices a little bit on the Air and the Pro because it was making its own processor. It didn't actually do that. It is something we could possibly see in the future, but for now, the prices are pretty steady with what they used to be.